Welcome, everyone. I appreciate your participation in our first public informational meeting for the NEPA design phase of the Arlington Avenue Bridges Project. I am Judy Tortelli, Project Manager for the RTC, and excited to share information with you and get your feedback. This is our first step to engage the public for this phase of the project. For those of you that don't know, RTC started the process of getting the two bridges on Arlington Avenue replaced back in 2019. We have now moved into the NEPA design phase and anticipate starting construction in just 2.5 years. The purpose of this presentation is to kick off the NEPA design phase of the Arlington Avenue Bridges project. During this phase, we intend to develop a design package to replace the two bridges over the Truckee River on Arlington Avenue. Our goal is to get construction underway during 2024. I will provide some history and background on the project that helps define our starting point. We will look at a timeline that identifies major milestones that the team needs to meet. As I go through this presentation, you will notice a focus on schedule. The schedule is critical and tight, but the Jacobs team has developed a detailed roadmap to get us to the finish line on time. I will review the project team along with their associated roles and responsibilities. We encourage your comments and feedback throughout the project, and I will discuss our communication approach and some tools we intend to use to keep you informed and collect feedback. Let's jump right into it. This project started back in 2019 with a feasibility study. The goal of that study was to define the scope, identify constraints, and estimate preliminary costs to replace the two bridges over the Truckee River along Arlington Avenue. When we look at the project timeline coming up in a later slide, you will notice the feasibility study included an extensive public engagement process. The community provided lots of valuable feedback, and our starting point stems from their input. We started with 5 initial bridge alternatives. After level 1 screening, further analysis, and community feedback, the team identified a bridge type and aesthetic package to carry forward into environmental clearance and design. The preferred alternative that rose to the top from the feasibility study was a single pier north bridge and clear span south bridge with a modern Art Deco aesthetic theme. A little more history. The RTC has allocated money to cover the NEPA design and construction of the project. I'm excited to say RTC received a $7 million grant from the feds to help pay for the construction of these bridges. This money must be obligated by September 2024. This is the key driving factor of the accelerated schedule. Review of the purpose and need of the project happened throughout the feasibility study. Initially, FHWA, NDOT, and the City of Reno agreed on the content. It was also vetted with the City of Reno Council, technical advisory committees, stakeholder working group, and the public. The purpose and needs statement describes the intention of the project and states the problems. Ultimately, it sets the stage for developing and evaluating possible improvement alternatives, but is not mode specific or biased toward a particular solution. The project needs to maintain a functional bridge over the river, improve safety and multimodal access to the park area, meet flood capacity requirements, and coincide with adopted regional and community plans. Now let's look at the results of the feasibility study. The preferred North Bridge type was a single pier. The feasibility study focused on the North Bridge because the short span of the South Bridge would require it to maintain a clear span bridge type to maintain river flow capacity. While structurally different, the look of the bridges will match. During the feasibility study, high-level aesthetic elements were discussed that focused on overall theme, various lighting potentials, opportunities for bridge railing, wider sidewalk space, and surface texture options. The outcome was a modern Art Deco theme, a melding of the old and the new. The appearance of the bridges and detailed aesthetics are planned to be determined as part of this NEPA design phase. I would like to take a moment to highlight some of the reasons the single pier North Bridge type resulted as the preferred alternative from the feasibility study. This bridge type has a reduced overall deck thickness. It will provide additional vertical clearance along this existing path. It has minor profile adjustments. It'll be easier to construct. So, what questions were left unanswered during the feasibility study? As part of the NEPA design phase, we need to determine if these bridges should be designed as cast in place or precast. Here is a picture of a cast in place type bridge. On the top here, this particular bridge type will have false work within the river for the abutments and the superstructure. This has a more aesthetically park-friendly look. On the bottom here, you will see an example of a precast structure. For this particular bridge, the false work within the river for the abutments while the superstructure will be set in place. This particular bridge type has more of a highway look to it. Biggest difference between these two bridge types that I would like to highlight is the construction time frame. The cast in place bridge type will take 2 to 4 years to build based on river restrictions and vehicle access. Alternatively, the precast option will take about 1 to 2 years for construction. This phase of the project picks up right where the feasibility study left off. Determining the aesthetics defines what the bridges will look like. The theme, Modern Art Deco, a melding of old and new, was decided and agreed upon during the feasibility study. This provides us with a box that we need to stay in as aesthetic elements are developed. Some elements being considered include pedestrian scale and bridge lighting, transparent bridge railing, pedestrian accessibility, wide sidewalks, textured abutments, and flood walls. At the second public informational meeting this July, the design team will present 3 aesthetic concepts, and you will have the opportunity to help decide which concept is moved forward into final design. During the feasibility study process, several concepts were noted as needing to be evaluated based on stakeholder and agency input. The team is looking at the possibility of including these within the project. Community feedback clarified that wider sidewalks are a must. We are looking at the possibility of providing a path under the South Bridge. I have to note, this is proving to be a tough one. Initial grading, layout, potential flooding, overhead clearance, maintenance issues, and illegal camping concerns are showing this just may not be practical. We are also looking at narrowing the roadway and separating bikes and peds from vehicular traffic, improving maintenance access to the river for sediment and debris removal, and improving access to the Wingfield Park Amphitheater for special event purposes. Speaking of Wingfield Park, I did want to let you know that the City of Reno is starting a park master plan and will be reaching out to the community for input. Improvements to Wingfield Park resulting from the park master plan are completely separate from our bridge replacement project. Identified improvements will happen after construction of the bridges is finished and will be fully funded by the City of Reno. This graphic shows the project timeline. It's a high-level overview of the schedule. This timeline highlights the steps taken to get through the feasibility study and what we plan to do to get through NEPA and design so that we can be under construction during 2024. Here, I want to introduce the project team and touch on the roles and responsibilities of each. We, RTC, will be managing and administering the design, NEPA, and construction of this project. The City of Reno owns the bridges. NDOT will be providing environmental oversight and review, as well as FHWA. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is overseeing our Section 408 permit, Section 404 permit. Carson Truckee Water Conservancy District is the local sponsor for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Section 408 permit. These folks here are all members of our design team. We have identified 5 key groups that are going to get us to the finish line. This slide lists each group's role and anticipated involvement as we move through the NEPA design phase. These next few slides list the members of our key groups. Similar to the feasibility study, you can see our aesthetic stakeholder working group is comprised of major permitting agencies, groups and organizations that represent a larger component of downtown, and immediate adjacent property owners. The Design Review Committee is comprised of more technical folks. Here is a list of Design Review Committee members. We have lots of agency involvement, as you can see from this slide, and we'll also be working with multiple utility companies. So let's talk about communication. It serves as the foundation for planning, increases efficiency, and is the basis for decision-making. Our main means of communication will be through meetings. There are a lot of meetings planned for this project, as noted on slide 11. This is how I plan to keep people engaged and decisions made to meet the accelerated schedule. A new project website can be accessed at www.arlingtonbridges.com. Meeting notes, material, and presentations from the various key group meetings will be posted on the website so the public can stay informed as the project progresses. As we move forward, the website will be continually updated. I encourage everyone to subscribe from the website. This ensures you receive automatic notifications as new material is posted. If you go to rtcwashoe.com and search Arlington, click on Arlington Avenue Bridges, you will have access to a library of information on the project that clearly documents the feasibility study. Community feedback is important to RTC, and I need to hear from you. I would like to highlight our process and discuss opportunities for you to share your ideas and suggestions and provide comments. As we move through the design and environmental study for the project, monthly design review committee meetings will ensure the technical design is appropriately evaluated. Quarterly involvement meetings will ensure everyone is in agreement and we are meeting environmental and permitting requirements. Coordination with utilities will be combined with design review committee meetings, so any utility crossing adjustments, upgrades, or new facilities can be addressed appropriately. As I mentioned earlier, with your help, we will decide on aesthetic design elements and develop an aesthetic package for the project. The bridges will not only meet the project purpose and need to provide functional bridges over the Truckee River, but they will also include aesthetic elements. I look forward to your comments on the aesthetic design feature choices at the next public meeting and any ideas you may have now. Again, please take our survey. It's how we can get feedback from you. So just a little bit on project status, what we've done. This kind of lists what we've been working on so far. The field work is underway for both survey and utility locations. We held our first aesthetic stakeholder working group meeting on February 25th. There was great attendance and lots of valuable discussion at that meeting. Right now, you are watching our first public informational meeting, which includes a survey. Please take that before April 18th. Once the survey closes, we will compile the results and continue preparing for our second public informational meeting. During the feasibility study, we followed the planning and environmental linkages process, which allows the key steps and decisions of the planning process, including identification of the purpose and need, identification of screening criteria, and the development and evaluation of alternatives to be carried forward into the NEPA phase. Also, we received great input from the public, stakeholders, resource agencies, and the local tribes that can be carried forward and used to help inform the NEPA process. During the feasibility study, we collected environmental data on potential historic resources, wetlands and biological resources, land use, parks and recreation, hazardous materials, and others. This information, which is summarized in the feasibility study, helped to inform our decision-making, notably our alternatives evaluation. As we start NEPA, we are supplementing and adding to the environmental data we collected during the feasibility study. Resources to be evaluated during NEPA are shown here on this slide. For any environmental impacts identified, the team will work to avoid and minimize those impacts. For impacts that can't reasonably be avoided, mitigation measures would be identified. So real quick, let's summarize our next steps. We have 2 more aesthetic stakeholder working group meetings to develop 3 concepts. Design review committee meetings will continue monthly so the project stays on track. Agencies will continue to be involved and environmental impacts will be determined, minimized, and mitigated. The team will compile results from this survey and post that information on the website. At our second public informational meeting, which will be held in person, you will get to vote on the aesthetics and see the bridge type selection results. We need your input. We have our online survey, which is posted on our website. If you want to reach out to me directly, my email address is there. You can also mail comments or questions to me at this address. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to your input.